Oh. Hi, everybody. It's Janet and Jill again with episode 5. And thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for listening. Any comments are very valued, and we love to hear what your experience is and what you would like to hear about. Hi, Jill. How are you today?
I'm good. I'm so glad to be here with you.
Oh,
It's been so fun to read people's comments. I really it's yeah, it just feels good because it feels like we're not doing this in isolation, which I don't think either one of us would have been as interested in doing. And it's been so fun to hang out with you and have these conversations with you. I hear such amazing things about you, Janet. So that's
oh.
really cool too. I think we're on the right track.
I think we are too, and you've been a beloved part of, my
Mm.
community and people that have loved you forever, so it's like, "Oh, you're doing it with Joe, cool," and
Oh,
yeah,
that's so sweet. We
yeah,
both go, I mean, our relationships with some of these individuals in our communities go way back.
way
Yeah,
back.
including you and I.
Yeah,
So
that's right.
it's pretty wild to think about.
Yeah, I think so. So Jill and I, we started talking briefly about topics before we started recording, which is we haven't really done that before. And then Jill's like, "We need to
Mm-mm.
record." I was like, "Okay, let's get on and see." um, and so I'll just kind of repeat what my version or my take on what we were talking about. I was just checking in with myself, and I got on with Jill, and I was like, "Whoa, I feel completely different today." And you can call that an upshift, you could call that a timeline jump, you can use lots of different words. A new reality has presented. And whenever that happens, I get to rediscover what's going on in my world. And I think a lot of people can relate to this, whether it's something, traumatic that happens in their life, even they get married. There's a lot of different reasons that people might have that newness feeling. And so as we went deeper, Jill's like, "Well, is it a good day, for us to record?" And I said, "Well, it kind of feels like, what the heck am I doing here on this planet?" As I went deeper, that's what I was kind of, tapping into. And there are a lot of changes on the external that will affect us all in some way, shape, or form. And that remains to be seen. We don't know that yet. Right? And so it seems like there may be others that are having these kind of existential questions present. And yeah, how do we navigate it?
I love that. I'm so glad that this is the type of experience where we can share those types of moments where we're like, what am I doing here? Like in a very, not like, what am I doing where I live or in a career or in a relationship? It's like, what am I doing like in this incarnation? What am I doing on this planet? I've definitely, I have and do occasionally have those experiences of just, it just feels like a reset. It feels like, okay, Jill, kind of wander into this cave a little bit and just, and it doesn't have to be negative. It doesn't have to be like a classical kind of depression. It can literally just feel like there's some sort of rebuilding and rewiring going on. um, I love those moments. They can be, for me anyway, and I'm curious about anything that you want to share about yours. For me, it can feel a bit uncomfortable because I definitely prefer when I feel like all the wiring I've put in place is connected and I'm, there's not smooth sailing, but there's a smooth kind of predictable pattern a little bit to me and how I feel and how I operate and where I feel led to, be and operate and create. And then other times I'm like, just, whoa, wait a minute. Like there's some new wiring here or rewiring is a term I like to use. And it just feels like just pull back a bit for now and just see what the feels are. Anyway, what's yours like?
Yeah, well, it's not always the same. It takes pressure a lot of times to hop into a new place because there's patterns and there's old ways of being. And if I've witnessed anything on the outside is that
Mhm.
what has been going on does need to shift because it's really not working for anybody on a fundamental level, in terms of our humanity, in terms of so many different levels. And so that kind of pressure of the breakthrough, I can get a little snarky with it sometimes, you know, but that's kind of I don't think that that's bad either because I'm all
Mhm.
about, I know I've known this about myself for a very long time that I'm not happy unless I'm on this expansive edge.
Mhm.
And that means that I'm getting to experience deeper levels of myself. And that includes deeper levels of intimacy, deeper levels of feels, deeper opportunities to create, and definitely more of what I would call God consciousness, whatever words you'd like
Mhm.
to use about that. And that includes inner peace, that includes calm in the midst of the storm, that includes I don't know, even extreme feelings like rage sometimes, like that. This is so okay in this moment. I think I'm gonna just blow. And sometimes that level of pressure does burst me into the next experience of my reality. So I geek out on this, quite frankly. And I'm in a human body suit, right? So I get to experience the feels. And that is not always comfortable. And I've gotten to be okay with that mostly, although I can be gritchy
Mhm.
about it, like,
Mhm.
you know,
Beautiful.
yeah.
Yeah, I'm guessing that the audience can definitely relate and has their own versions of it too, and I hope this is helpful that it can be something that you actually get excited about. It can
Yeah.
be something like, "Ooh, I get this again," and I wonder what's gonna be on the other side of this. And given our podcast number 4, that is so much about us. We have the authority over, what does this mean? What is next? What do we wanna be next? What is this evolution, right? What is this change? Um, I love the personal authority in that, and just you don't need to figure it out before you feel like you have the wiring. It's the unknown is a creator space too. The uncertainty is not only understandable, it should be expected. You're not doing it wrong if you're uncertain.
Mhm.
Certainty comes later after you've decided kind of what it is you are and what you're deciding to be with what you are.
Mhm. And I'll tell you just my experience now, and this is of myself and of clients, that there's so much change possible, and I think we limit ourselves, and I'll speak for myself. I
Mm,
limit myself in terms of what's possible here on this planet. And when I look back, especially in these last few years, for myself, I have noticed it literally feels a body, like a reincarnation in this body. Like things are
mm,
so completely different that that's what it feels like. And things
mm,
that used to take to kind of process, whether it's
mhm,
whatever it is, and that can be in the creational sense or in traumas or old patterns, it can be in either way. But the leap that I can get from that is just completely different. And so I just want to invite people to consider that for themselves. That if they've it's easy to put ourselves in a box based on our experience here. And that includes beliefs, thoughts, people, groups, relationships, and a lot of that is based on what we've known. And I love that you brought up the whole idea of unknown because when it's ready for us, I'm not saying everybody should do this, but I'm just saying put this in your little toolbox and consider it because when the moment hits for you, like you can actually go for it, right? And
yeah.
you know, it's not, I wouldn't say it's been the most comfortable few years I've been in this big transformation, but it's been the most, what would I say? Profound and
Mm,
soulfully satisfying, like, I wouldn't have it any
mm,
other way. Like,
mhm.
that I was done, and I know sometimes I try to hang on to the old a little longer than I need to, and that's more uncomfortable than the new, really. Yeah,
I
and
like
people
that.
can relate,
This
you know?
Yeah, the newness doesn't have to take over what's already there. I feel like that was a big upgrade for me when I realized that. when you
Mm,
add something new in terms of who and what you are and how you're allowing yourself to be in this reality, it doesn't have to push anything else out. It
mm,
can, but it doesn't. Then I feel like it's less dramatic.
mm,
There's less trauma because you're not losing anything. You're just adding something else to the puzzle. I love the metaphor of the gobstopper, that candy that has all these little layers. So you're just, or even the earth's layers, you're adding a layer. Okay, I'm going to add this layer. I'm going to add this layer. The other layers are still there if you slice through it and you could see it and you know it's there.
mm,
So you're not, I feel like we're doing that. We're adding layers to our crust. We're adding layers to our candy.
mm.
More so than we're like swapping things out. And I find that to be a lot healthier. I feel like my inner child actually likes it better too, because I don't have to mourn something as I add something else new into who and what I am in this world.
Mhm. Yeah, that's a good perspective. Yeah, and I think about it in terms of skill sets or authenticness of who I am of like a fractal of source, right? Like that there's something about that where um, I those skill sets are still available. They might be more efficient, and I might be able to apply them to the world in a new way that I couldn't see before. But that ability, that foundational ability, it's it's there, like that authenticness of that source. I want to call it creational energy, I'll call it, is there.
Mhm,
And that does allow me to do the things I did, and I might choose to do
mhm.
it a different way because I've got a different perspective really is what a lot of it is,
Yeah.
and
So
that's
you were
good.
mentioning before we started recording today that there might be like an inner rant going on. I'm all for a really good rant. Are you still
Oh,
feeling any of that? Any of that?
oh.
Am I protesting too much?
I mean, the one thing when I tap in, it's like, "Why are we still doing things this way?" And that,
Any examples you want to share, Jared?
um well, government comes up, and that's not party
Mm,
affiliated. That's just like
mm.
government of the people, by the people, for the people. That's really because that's where my heart is. I mean,
Mm,
I have a real humanitarian I really care about everybody. I mean, I can
mhm.
sit and have a long, drawn out conversation with anybody, whether you're the president of some other country or whether you're the guy without a home across the street,
Yeah.
because,
Mm,
that's just who I am. So when our systems and our society doesn't reflect that, that's a big problem for me. And that
mm,
is like that just is like, "Oh, that's bubbling." And I suspect that's
mm,
bubbling for a lot of people now. Um,
mm,
and, like, how do we get that right? Or how do we head in that direction? Or how do we use our own personal resources in a way that's gonna be productive? Kinda like we talked about last time versus depressive.
mhm. So do you feel like the rant kind of nature of your experience today related to something as big as the governmental systems is another layer of you relative to what we talked about in episode number 4? It's like there's part of you that feels neutral and calm and, we're good. I've got my inner light here. And then there's another, I feel like you're giving yourself permission to address another layer of you that's like, this is so messed up. This is so effed up today. Is that correct?
I mean, the way I kind of experience life, like I still have that foundational Janetness. Like she is like here. And like you can't push her over, right? Like she's just like,
Hmm.
yeah, you've tried, right? And
Yeah.
I have
Yeah.
fallen,
Oops.
and
Sorry.
we're kind of done with that, right?
Yeah.
And and when you think about the image of magma inside the earth is really
Yeah.
what's coming up, right?
Hmm.
And that has such power and can transform things so deeply.
Yeah.
right? I mean, we're talking about tectonic plates of the earth and how the pressure of the earth, which we had a little pressure conversation in our last podcast too,
Yeah, we did.
but it's like how that pressure relates. So I feel those both at the same time. And
Mhm,
I think that's what we encourage people to do, right? Like you can feel so many things at the same time
mhm,
and not take that outwardly at people, but decide how to use that mana, that life force in a good way.
yeah,
So
yeah,
so that does like those that magma does bust up inner plates within me of who I thought I was on some level.
mm, mhm,
I over identify, and we've talked about that too, over identifying with certain things,
mm,
and then this does too. It's for me, it's tied into what I would call inner child work or trauma because I don't realize I'm still repeating these patterns. And it's not even about inner child. It's about something I might have a pattern I started 10 years ago or 50,000 years ago
mm,
that I'm still repeating and don't. I was like, whoa, that's unconscious. And now it's not. Let's bust up those tectonic plates that are
mhm,
holding that pattern in place because they're meant to move. It's sort of like our ribs and the intercostal muscles. A lot of
mhm.
people, those are frozen. Those things are meant to move in our bodies.
Yeah, that's so true. I love this because I feel like the theme that we're sort of, um, wandering into here is change. It's uncomfortable change. It's personal growth, um, and what I like to call rewiring, and just the complexity of that. I feel like that's kind of the general topic, and I love the metaphor of the earth and the shifting and the constant shifting. Um, I'm going to add in a what I feel is a related topic, and that's this preference that a lot of spiritual experiencers have for trying to figure out what they are, right? The seeking kind of side of it. Okay, so okay, oh, I'm this astrological sign. I'm I'm here for this purpose, or I'm here on this mission. Um, I'm here with this numerology. I'm here with these, past lives that I'm supposedly working on. All of those things are very fixed if you actually think about it. And that to me would speak to the fact that as humans, we are very, maybe not all of us, but some are maybe more predisposed to wanting to look for fixed ideas to latch onto and kind of click into. And we're actually talking about something almost the antithesis of that, that we're constantly changing, that we're constantly curious, that it's okay to have something to kind of identify with or latch onto to help you understand yourself. But that isn't all that you are, right? That doesn't define you in a limiting way. It gives you one lens through which to know yourself, view yourself, and operate yourself. But you can create new layers that are literally just as important or even more important as your sun sign, even more important than your life number. You know what I mean? There's all of these things that they're just one marker, and you can give them as much weight as you want to. But if we over identify with those things, in my experience, even with clients, we really really limit ourselves.
Mhm. Yes, and the way sort of I operate is because that is one of the patterns, identifying, right? And that, like in your example, yes, that can be helpful to how we know ourselves, right? And then there's the other perspective where it literally has a driver that's not healthy because it is
Mm.
that attachment thing. And so I know we went through some strategies last time about what to do and how to go deeper. And this would be, I really hope my dog doesn't have to go outside. We just came in, but she's barking, so we're just gonna have to pay attention to that.
If you need to attend to her though, we can. I'm sure we all agree that she's important.
Well,
I'm fussy today because I'm in a different environment. Because anyway, we can talk more about what's going on at my house today, if we want to, if we have time. But anyway, go ahead.
uh, well, yes, it might just be she has a thing she does with bones before she eats them, and she may be doing that. So anyway,
Okay.
Um, so this idea about attaching to trying to find an identity and why.
Mm,
So, like, inviting that in as a really an expansion point or a self-knowing, like, to know myself better.
mhm,
Why am I doing that? And I know for myself, when insecurities come up, I really wanna, like, latch onto something to try to make me feel safe.
mm.
And that so for myself, when I look at that, it's like, wow, okay, pause. So let me just look and see how many times is this really a pattern? When I've
Mm.
been under stress, let me look back at the last time I was under stress. What did I do then? Oh my God, I went into a wild thing, and I did this, right? And I was like, and I identified as this. And then that only lasted this, like just check it out. Because
Yeah, yeah.
I don't have any, judgment about this, about what people do or
Mhm,
what they don't. And, sometimes when big things happen, we need to kind of burn it off. Like when my
mhm.
dog died once, I made jewelry, and boy, did I make jewelry. I made all it was
Mm,
beautiful stuff, but, I knew I was burning it off, and I was like, "Oh, thank
mm,
goodness," right? This was probably 25 years ago, but I really needed to,
mm.
so I really
Yeah.
appreciate that. Um,
That's an important point. Yeah, you go ahead. You have something right there, and I wanna hear it
oh,
too.
no. Well, I thought that was my dog. I was gonna need to pause, so my
Oh,
apologies,
okay.
but she got her bone, and I think she's gonna stop barking now.
Okay, good.
Okay, so go ahead.
Um, the I love that you're bringing in the topics of insecurity and, kind of securing yourself amidst I love insecurity is lack of secure, right? You're not fixed, you're not
Mhm,
attached, you're unattached in an uncomfortable way, right? That's a good point because insecurity can be temporary, it doesn't have to be lifelong, and I would theorize that some of the individuals that do have some really foundational insecurities, they may look to the wrong places for where to find that security,
mhm,
and then they may stay there too long, right? So speaking of this kind of gobstopper candy layer kind of approach, it can be very uncomfortable for someone that has lifelong said, "Well, I'm this way because I'm my astrological sign," right? I I'm a Pisces, I can't help it. You know what I mean?
mhm,
But another way I mean, that would be maybe a fun experience for people to consider is how are you how are you normally kind of introducing yourself? What is a core part of your identity that helps you feel safe and secure and seen with new people or in a new environment? Because I feel like those latched onto plates sort of pop out in those experiences. And again, they don't have to be bad. We're not saying look at this trauma. That's not what I'm doing. I'm just saying it's fun to kind of play with that. Are you first identifying yourself as, the roles that you play relationship wise, whether you're in a relationship or married or single or widowed or, whatever the case may be, and just really look at that and then give yourself permission to say, is there anything about that that's limiting for me today?
mhm,
Because some of us get in these stories and 20 years later, we're like, why am I still talking about the fact, that I have this degree or whatever? Does anyone care in this environment that I have my MBA? Maybe not. I'm still proud of it. You know what I mean? It was just a kind of like, like that's kind of maybe a little cringy to kind of explore those layers of ourselves. Why are we doing that? And is there another thing that we can put in its place to also sort of identify with and I want to say latch onto, but I mean it in a loving, like a nurturing, mother's milk sort of way. Um, I do think it's interesting to point out to people, and I've always witnessed it as a very expansive idea when somebody says, well, I'm a Pisces, just the way I am, and they use it almost like an excuse. And then
mhm,
the expansive part is, but what kind of Pisces do you want to be?
mhm,
Right? What somebody with that rising sign, what do you want that to mean? Because we're more than that. It is
right,
something that's identifiable. It is something that we can allow to be real in our lives. But even people's faith, oh, I'm this or I'm that. Oh, okay. And what else? What's your version of that? You know what I mean? I'm more curious about the customization and the individuality within that than I am the thing that they're kind of putting themselves in that secure box with. I don't know. Even when we talked about political parties a lot because we were in that season, but that's the same thing. I don't, yeah, I just like, and what's your version of that? And that's what I really want to know. But some people haven't done that personal exploration. They don't know why. They haven't thought about why. They're in a certain thing. They just are. Yeah, like why would you have picked to be Pisces? Huh. I wonder as a soul, what about that birth sign? What about that literal angle of entry you would have found useful, beneficial for who and what you wanted to be and have available to you in this lifetime. Right?
Yeah.
That to me is a way more interesting, expansive room to move, but still something to kind of click into that doesn't limit you.
Yeah, I'll give a couple examples of the astrological theme because I've had readings. I mean, not a lot. It's not something I'm completely into, and I don't even know how to read my chart really, very vaguely. But
I'm not an astrologer either. I don't have expertise in that. I can do a reading though with it. I'm like, oh, Leo. Ooh, anyway, go
yeah,
ahead. Yeah.
exactly. Exactly.
My
So,
daughter is way better at it than I am. She's very
uh,
skilled. Yeah.
oh, that's great. So what I wanted to just share an experience because people can see how this fits for them. One of the last kind of, I guess that's the last time I had my birth chart done, and it was years ago, right? But what was really cool to me is those aren't really as fixed as people think they are, like you're talking about,
No.
right? And
Mhm.
so what I could feel was the astrologer was listing all these things that could be happening. And in my mind, I was
Yeah.
like, oh, work through that, done, work through that. And I
Mm,
could literally feel kind of the negative, the challenge of that sign or that aspect. And I could be click,
mhm,
click, click, click. And it was great for me because I saw how much personal work I had done. I was like, done.
mm,
Oh yeah, that's that. Oh, that was that. Oh, that was that. And then she got to, and I can even see and feel it. Like on the top of my chart, she'd share something and she's like, well, it could be this one. I was like, I could tell you exactly what it is. And I just knew in that moment,
mhm,
blah, blah, blah. And I hadn't quite worked through that dynamic yet. And some of it
mm,
was some dynamics with my mother. And it doesn't really matter
mm.
what it was. But so we're almost meant to kind of evolve out of those because we kind of get it and then we still have the power of what that sign represents. Like I was born in the sign of Capricorn, right? And Capricorn is a little
Are you
dark.
really a Capricorn?
I am.
Oh, I have so much. I literally have like hero kind of ideology about the Capricorns because they're just like, you guys get shit done. I mean, like you do a to-do list and like it gets checked off and you go to sleep. And I'm like, I wish I had more Capricorn energy. My husband has a lot of Taurus energy, and I'm like,
Uh,
oh, lucky Jeff. Now I
yeah.
can say lucky Janet.
Well, and if people are
Anyway,
curious,
I interrupted you. I'm so sorry. Go ahead.
that's okay. So when you said about like why is a soul would I have picked Capricorn? And
Mm,
Capricorns are when you talk about institutions that need to shift and foundational things and structures,
mhm.
like I mean, I do that on a creational level, right? Like I
Yeah.
did all creation and I was like, we're not doing that anymore. Like that's what I do and sort of in my spare time.
Yeah.
Like it's one of my jobs here that sometimes I get, financial reimbursement for and sometimes I don't, depending on whether it's a collective level, but it's one thing I do here on this planet. So it makes sense. And
Mm.
then I've got like a Leo rising, right? Which is very, I know what I'm talking about, right? Like I just
It's a
do.
lot of it's very authoritative. Yeah.
And then that Taurus moon that allows me to go deeper and underneath. So that's my
Furious.
the main combo, right? So that makes sense for me, right? Like, and I'm sure the astrologer would be like, oh,
No, your chart. I love people, right? So I'm just like, ooh, oh, I see the creator element in it. And yeah, oh my God, can't believe that.
yeah.
So
So
Capricorn Sun,
yeah,
Leo
rising
rising,
and
and
Taurus moon.
Taurus Moon.
Yeah.
Sweet Jesus. This one came to get shit done.
Well,
I will be heard. I will not waste a moment's time.
and go into the
Love
surface,
you.
right? Like we are going
I
down.
love you with
We're
such
going.
courage, like the lion you are, like going in.
Yeah. So I hope
Oh my
people
God.
can
Mad
consider
respect for you.
I hope people can consider their own life that way and perhaps use a different lens because we are evolving as, and I'm going to say souls, like
Yeah.
humans, yeah, but a human is one aspect of who we are. Oh, a little
Oh my
laugh
God.
pause here.
I just need a minute. I can't.
Oh, that's
Oh my
hysterical.
God. I just love it. I'm like kind of gobsmacked about the whole thing. Now we just want to chat about signs. So, so get you off your rant before you know it. And going back to, okay, before I do that, where are we at on time? Am I going to get in trouble from somebody going, you guys are going too long? Which I was a bit getting defensive about with Janet beforehand. I'm like, I don't like the criticism that we go to.
We're
See this?
just, I mean, to be real here, we're trying to find a sweet spot and we don't even know like who this is beneficial for. Is it like the people that know
No,
us already, the people that haven't met
we don't
us?
have a
We don't.
target market like that.
We don't. So the time and how much time we spend in these, we're not
Oh
really
my
sure how
God.
long that's going to shake out. You know, we
You
went.
guys are going to be able to guess my signs like before this conversation is over. Here we go. Okay, so what I was going to say was though you had made the statement something about, maybe we're supposed to evolve out of these signs. I guess I would offer it in another way if I mean if that works, that's great. And for somebody else, going to back to what we were talking about before, I will never it I was born in the sign of Pisces. I mean, that's undefined. It's undeniable. It just is, right? That is my sun. So, but I don't have to limit myself in what that means, right? And when I did work with an astrologer, it was somebody that, oh my gosh, rest in peace, Kat Barton Barrel. And she created the Blue Sky Shop, and she spelled shop with an old English spelling, SHOPPE. And I miss Kat all the time. Anyway, Kat had a very nuanced, from my experience, refreshing way. She always wanted to give you your chart and your reading in a very empowered way, not in a, well, this is always going to be a problem for you. Or this is the, your ball and chain and you're just going to have to live with it. It always felt inspired and encouraging, and literally empowering versus limiting. So I really loved that about her. And I still have the video recordings she made for me. Anyway, so that's just something to think about. If there are aspects of your sign that you don't like, you are more than that. You have all these other energies that you are also literally as a soul and have available to you in this lifetime. So that's up to you. Um, so I am, oh wait, first I have to start off with this funny little story. So I was born in Minnesota in 1970 in the small town of Austin, Minnesota. Um, and they did not record your time of birth on your birth certificate. So obviously I have location, obviously I have date, but I literally don't have the hour on the clock that was available. That was, so my mom's memory is horrible. She's like, well, I know we were your our doctor was bowling, so it had to have been after 11 p.m. because we had to call him in from the bowling alley. And I'm just like, so what is that, 10, 11? I mean, 1 a.m. What, you know what I mean? So I just had to kind of guess at my time of birth, which to a lot of very Capricorny astrologers, they were like, well, then I can't do your chart. It has to be precise. As if the date, as if the recording, especially with the old analog clocks, was literally to the minute. Clocks could have been wrong, people, we didn't. There's a lot of ways there could be room for a margin of error. So maybe those of you that are sure that your time of birth is right, I don't know if you're actually as fixed on that accuracy as you should be. I'm using to my advantage the fact, though, that I pretty much had to kind of guesstimate and just feel into maybe it was 11 p.m. ish, Anyway, so I'm a Pisces sun, and I can't remember which one is the rising, but then I'm Cancer and Scorpio. And somebody pointed out to me, "You're all water." And I'm like, "That feels good and bad at the same time." I mean, no wonder I've had so many like, "Yeah, now I'll do this for a career. Oh, now I wanna do this. Oh, wait, what about that? Like, I think I could be good at that too." Right? So there's this literal limitless I'm just water, just, like, going meandering around the river of my life. But I need a container badly. So, like, my calendar can be my container, saying I'm gonna show up for Janet once a week is my container, saying I'm gonna show up for clients and do this and do that. But I also, when it's an appointment with myself, oh, there's very little hope for me. I'm just like, well, I mean, it's just me. I don't have to do it at 10 a.m. I'm just always looking for the way the water can flow versus stay contained. But I use my roles, especially my professional roles, as the containers. I feel like I'm lacking, or I won't get anything done. I am so content, literally just being in so many ways that it's surprising how much I actually have accomplished in my life. So clearly I have methods that I've created and utilized, but there's a lot of talk about flow. There's a lot of flow in my life. Yeah.
That's fantastic. I wanted to kinda just sort of correct so the moving beyond the sign, a more accurate way of saying
Mm,
that would
okay.
be,
Yeah.
um, sort of evolving beyond the negative aspects of how they can be restrictive.
I like that. And then you're not evolving out of the fixed thing. You're evolving out of any personal interpretation of what limitation that may have meant.
That's right.
I love that. That's
That's
cool, Janet. Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, because we all do.
Mm.
And I do think that, I mean, it's sort of like a heel or a hold Capricorn, not one that
Uh,
doesn't express emotion. I mean, you can see I'm
uh,
very emotional,
oh,
right?
totally. Yeah.
So obviously that's not my thing. And I was frozen before, and there's still parts
Mm.
that I'm unfreezing, right? And that's okay, right?
Yeah, at the
So, I mean,
iciness of my favorite Capricorns. It's just, oh, I love it.
so
I
yeah,
love you guys so much.
and we do kind of there is choice in there, like you've done with yourself to be,
Yeah.
a full on Jill, because I do think we're
Mhm.
more, and we learn from other people,
Oh, totally.
completely learn from other people.
Yeah, it's so good. Oh my gosh. How we doing on time? Does this feel like a wrap?
Yeah, it kind of does. It feels short after the
It
episode
does.
before,
So I
but
guess I'll offer a couple takeaways and summaries, and then if you wanted to, I guess parting comments I would offer is just where in your life do you feel like some role or your sense of a role that you play in this reality, whether it's, sister, daughter, mother, brother, son, father, any roles that you play that you're like, I am trapped in this, right? Just give yourself permission to really look at that. And what about the way that you're operating in that role makes it feel limiting? Right? What about the operation of your sign makes it feel like a restriction versus an opportunity, right? And I feel like in that experience, you'll really start to tap into more of your authorship, your creator energy, and feel the limitlessness that truly is available to you in this reality right now.
Mhm. Yeah, so let's go there, right? Let's just take a few breaths with that. That's what I would, oh, I can just feel it.
Mm.
And that go into that unlimited, limitless inside of your sacred heart right there, and just breathe. And
Mm.
see if you can let your godliness, your God consciousness, those parts of you that are so all knowing, to just sort of wipe any slates clean. And use your breath and make sure you breathe into your belly, because we want to do this in this planetary consciousness, right? In our lives. So allow those slates to be cleaned in your everyday life.
Mm.
Anything that needs to be reset, breathe that all into your belly and let that happen. You're not doing it, you're allowing God, God's self to do it.
Mm.
One more deep breath all the way through. Feel your ribs expand and let them move if they want to. They're designed to,
Mm.
right? That's the metaphor. Let them be flexible. Let them have more of that source energy active,
Mm.
and let them enjoy the movement, the pure joy of movement. This is a big metaphor here. And this is how we can navigate change. The sure joy of the movement.
Mm.
Beautiful. Excellent.
There is such freedom in what you just offered, and it relates so beautifully to what we talked about today. It is completely a release of limitation. And it's the best kind of limitation because it's the one that we've sort of placed on ourselves, possibly without even realizing that we did it.
Oh, thank you so much, everybody. So much love. So much love. Blessings abound.
Yeah. Thanks, everybody. Thank you. Thanks,
Thank-
Janet.
Thanks, Jill.